Hello, everyone, and welcome back to PS Paul Stewart, a lovely little channel that I've set up, little show that I've set up to introduce people that are sharing their gifts and bringing light into the world and inspiring us. And I'm Paul Stewart. I'm a facilitator of well-being. I use personal training, energy healing, mentoring to just assist people in their empowerment. I've been doing that for about 25 years around the world. So I'm really honored today to bring to you Maureen Edwardson. She's the founder and creator of Inner Resonance Technologies. And I'm delighted that she's going to spend some time with us. It's actually our second interview. And Maureen, welcome.
Thank you. It's so
Yeah,
awesome to be here with you. It's always fun.
yeah, great to see you, and you're looking well. And
Thanks. Likewise.
yeah, today we're going to talk about what you bring into the world, and also I understand you'd like to share an experience as well, an experience of your technology. So perhaps we'll do that a bit later on. So firstly, how did you come up with that name?
Well, that is a very good question. I've been doing this for 29 years or so, and way back then, I wanted to call it Inner Technologies because, we have everything within us, and we're not used to thinking that way, and certainly not 25 plus years ago. But I realized, and also I wanted to say Inner Technologies because I wanted to say you are it, or this is it, and and that wasn't going to wash because everything IT was computers and technology, external technology in those days. There was no way to really spiritually do that phrase. And then a little while later, I noticed that Greg Braden started talking about the inner technologies. And then eventually, Bruce Lipton also talked about and does talk about the soft technology that we have within our own self and the principle of resonance in our bodies that runs the show. And Candace Pert, Dr. Candace Pert, who her book is Molecules of Emotion, and she discovered, if you will, or made famous the processes from which the receptors on the cell activate the programs in the internal part of the cell, and she referred to that as resonance, the law of attraction. Whereas until then, scientists had chosen more of a mechanical model, like the key and lock, so unlocking, the programs. She called it resonance within the cell. And of course, my work was already resonance at that point. I was also teaching my work in tribal schools for the Bureau of Indian Affairs for the U.S. government. And so they really didn't like the name that I had before, which was Mind Body Magic, because magic has polarity, and is she from the devil, and is this black magic? And so I was looking for a word that didn't have a polarity. And so resonance came up. And then I went, oh, inner resonance technologies. Because I didn't want to use resonance healing like it was for a little while, because this is way more than healing. It's about, remembering who we are and being that, and knowing that there's really nothing ever wrong. And so when we clear our old perceptions and all of the static of our old beliefs and programs, then we get to be in that center of our heart and resonate with the goodness of the world and be that.
Do you think it's easy for people to do?
Depending, depending on the readiness, depending on the path they're choosing. A lot of people still have a belief that they need to struggle and they have to really work hard for it. And that's fine. There are many different ways, and none of them are right or wrong or good or bad in my perception. The path that I have emerged with is one that has zero struggle, and it just neutralizes all the resistance in our field so that we can just show up and be ourselves and be happy for no reason. But that's a concept that hasn't got widespread understanding that that is even possible. So yeah, I think it's hard for a lot of people. The world is struggling, and so that's why I'm grateful for you to um, invite me to facilitate an experience for people, so they can have another tool as they go through life to help them be in balance instantaneously and bring them back into that place of ease and grace.
Do you think that, well, later we'll do the experience, but in that case, do you think people's current beliefs will be a big factor in how they experience that? Do you think that they can still benefit in some way just by sitting in there in their silence, so to speak?
Definitely, because it's who we are already, and it's science, and the subconscious already knows this. And so it's a series of questions that are designed to activate the part of you that already knows, and that's beyond your beliefs and beyond what you think is true. It doesn't matter. And your own inner self and your higher self knows who you truly are. And so that's the part we put in charge and allow everything to show up and surprise us.
Yeah. Well, you've been doing this for about 3 decades, I believe. So
Almost.
have you ever noticed anyone lose anything that they wished they hadn't lost, or any changes that they regretted, or anything like that, as they just immerse in such a thing?
Not at all, because you see, embedded in the agreements are safe and appropriate, easy and gentle for what is ready at this time.
Mhm.
And I don't do anything to people or for them. So their higher self is the governor of all that and the discerner of all that and knows what's best for them. And sometimes people totally forget, their old way because they're so aligned with their current moment of who they are that any old issues that they had are um, not even present in any form. So they're
Mhm.
free of it. So they just carry on. It's just like waking up in the morning and saying, I don't have the flu. How many days do we do that after we've been sick, right? It just becomes a normal organic state to be who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. You talked about resonance and being in resonance in your work early on. Did you find that you were already in resonance before you discovered these things, and you simply it was a further expansion, or was there a big shift for you?
Yes and no. It was a personal journey. The Yeah, it was a personal journey for me, remembering who I am, because I didn't have a clue for the first, I don't know, 35, 40 years of my life. And so I just kind of showed up, and I laugh and say, people say, well, how did you, discover and create this work? Well, I just showed up and followed the breadcrumbs and, jumped on all the lily pads that had something shiny, and attracted me, right? And so, I say, well, I just happened to be there. And of course, we're guided at another level. And sometimes, for me, I never had the big megaphone voices in my head, do this, go there, this. I just, I laugh and say I stumbled, through it. However, it was embodied in me, and this is my purpose from ancient history to be here in this lifetime and bring this information back forwards, this time, backed by all of the science. And so we've had that now. The science has validated and is validating a lot of who we are and how to evolve ourselves. And yet at the same time, we're finding now the next level is to be in our hearts and listen to that voice from our heart space and follow that path, the way of the heart. And the people that want or need that science, that's all there for them. And yet, how do we activate ourselves now from the heart center and move in places of compassion and gratitude and joy and creativity?
Hmm. They're all values or qualities that people would openly admit they want to experience. But do you think sometimes the patterns of the mind are dominating a little bit, so it's a little bit hard to feel that for people? Would you agree?
I totally agree, and that's where I guess the spiritual saying is, the longest journey people will ever make is from their heads to their hearts.
Hmm. When when you were a child, did you have a sense of such things. And do you recall experiences, or did they come back? Recalling such things, did that come back later?
No.
Okay, next question.
I was brought up. I was brought up in a very religious household, fundamentalism, and I was always asking all the wrong questions, of my elders, and being put in the corner and made to sit in the back row, things like that. I wasn't welcome in those circles. I was a natural questioner and such and such disturber, as we won't say bad words on the airlines here. But yeah, I've always asked questions, way too many questions, and that ends up being one of my gifts. Asking questions that other people hadn't thought to ask. I'm a dot connector. I see the relationships between things and ask, and then be curious. I'm just very curious. So, yeah, I wasn't always popular because of that.
Yeah. It's funny when you think about children with all their questions. Sometimes it gets a bit tiring, but it's good to hear something like that, because we remember that perhaps it's just part of their nature, I suppose. But so you were actually naturally curious, and
Yeah.
did you have a sense of what you'd say resonance now, or did you have a sense of your own essence in a way? Did you
No.
recognize that?
I would say no. I'd say I'm happy. I've always been a happy person, and not to say that life hasn't dealt, many different punches and challenges. Absolutely. And have I spent, years in depression? Yes, I hadn't recognized it because I identify myself basically as a happy person, and I am. And so that's, you and I have a lot of laughs together, in our conversations, you and I. And so I have this natural humor. I think that's been a lot of my saving grace.
Well, I'm
So
glad you'll admit that all that laughing is entirely your fault.
I claim it. Yes, yes, I claim it. You're not funny at all, Paul. Not at all.
No, no. And now I'm moving on. So, what what was happening in your life when you started to? Was it a sudden change where you became really conscious of sort of driving this interest and natural interest, or how did that unfold? What were you doing at the time?
Well, my mother had died, and I thought it was my fault on some level. And there was nothing I did or anything at the time, but you know how even children think everything's their fault. um, but there was something in that I felt, I don't know. And so that put me into a lot of questioning, a lot of inner searching, deep, deep, deep grief. For months I was wearing all of my mother's clothes. I was talking about not letting her go. I had an 11-month-old baby, and so that was one big catalyst in my journey, putting me on a path. However, there was another event that happened when my children were very small. I have two girls, and when they were just young, toddlers, basically, something happened that woke me up to some childhood abuse. My body just started raging, and I think, oh my goodness, I had no idea. That anger and that rage was inside me. What's this? And so I went in search. I went to a psychiatrist who I had been to previously to find out why I was still in the dysfunctional relationship I was in the marriage, um, and then to find out how I could cope with what had been triggered from my own childhood. And so that put me on another journey of healing. And I became a workshop junkie because I knew I needed help. So yeah, I just went everywhere, and I wasn't getting any help. I was the failure of everything, and that kind of fit in with my childhood too. I'd be the one called up to the blackboard, to do math problems, and like it did not. I was not the class example, should I say, a shining light in math. So it's the same sort of thing, going to workshop after workshop, training after training, and everybody else is getting all this magnificent healing, and I'm just there. Please, please, pick me. I really want this so badly. However, it was in divine order because I was to be exposed to a lot of different ways and different traditions, different paths, so that I could wake up the gift that I didn't know I had of seeing the essence in something, seeing the principles, and then developing something from the principles, so of how the universe works. And so I just kind of followed my nose and got dragged around, pushed around by my higher self, and here I am.
Mm. Yeah, well, you found some kind of uniqueness, it seems. And were there any sort of key triggers or key teachings that really helped you with that?
Probably many.
Yeah.
As an integrator, it's hard to, pull it all apart when it's been distilled and in the
Yes.
crucible and emerged, in a lot of different ways over all these years. Um, Probably, it's really interesting. I was having trouble writing it all down because it kept changing so quickly until there was something that happened. I don't know quite what that would be specifically, but I was invited to go to Russia and Siberia. Got sent to Siberia, Paul.
To the
Something,
front.
yeah, something in that lesson, taught me something. But
Oh, it's a pioneering move.
yeah. And so whatever that experience was brought me into a place where when I came back, I could start um, coalescing it in a different way and actually writing it down. And that was back in 94, 95. However, it continues to evolve all the time. And, we're always learning, we're always exposed to different things, we're always participating in life. And so nothing is ever static in my world. I think most people, and you're the same, I know that, we're always exploring different parts of ourselves, and other people are showing up, like giving us opportunities to look at things differently. So yeah, it's a wonderful way to live life.
Yes. How did you first start sort of putting it out there? Was that easy to do, and how did that happen?
Well, originally I did take some training, and I was really excited about this one training I took. Um, and it was from a man called Roger LaChance. He was from Montreal. I'm Canadian, but he was living in the US at that time. And he had developed a pattern interrupt work with sound and balloons. And in particular, some people call them emotional centers. So it was more like emotional release type of work. And I became a teacher of that system. And it was from that place that the basic place of doing the work of Roger, that I came into my own understandings. And he felt that I was, because I was the only one in Canada to do that work, and I facilitated and taught a lot of people in his technique. And then from that, those understandings, I started getting all kinds of inspiration and insights of my own work, and offered up to that organization, and they weren't quite as forward thinking or thinking in the same way, should I say. And so I eventually had to leave and follow my own muse, so to speak, my own understandings. And like Roger said, I was doing level 5 of his work, and he'd only put out 2 levels. But it was just through curiosity, and it was just, claiming my path and seeing the results, and working with people taught me everything. Really, because it wasn't anything that I downloaded and wrote down and channel. It was the process of being with people in that mode of healing and spiritual work, that everything was informed and inspired. And so when I was doing workshops originally way back, I used to laugh and say that, I should pay the people to show up, as students, because I felt I was learning more from them than they were from me. And so that was kind of a funny joke in those days. However, it's what it is. That's how we go through. We're interconnected, right? And we're always weaving ourselves together in lots of different ways, and we all have something for each other. So that's part of how this emerged and how it got put together. Just, jumping from one lily pad to the other with different sets of questions that occurred to me. And, a little small S scientist, there was one time where and I used to work on a table to have people, their emotional centers and their chakras, face up. And now I don't need anything like that, and I don't need to know anything. I don't work with the body. I don't do anything. So this has evolved into a whole different paradigm, the intervescence technologies now. However, in those days, this one fellow came to me, and I had the thought to weigh him, because I was curious about, do all these emotions actually, are they physically heavy? Because, I feel really weighed down, I'm depressed, and so I weighed him on and off the table, and in a 1 hour period, he actually lost 7 pounds. That was before he went to the bathroom at the end. Yeah, 7 pounds is the difference in weight of releasing all his old negative emotions. So it's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Have you worked with children much?
Yes, actually a lot. And I taught my work for the National Indian School Board Association down in the US in tribal schools. So I worked with children both in the classroom, with teachers, and I taught workshops to the whole school community, including if it was a dormitory school, with dorm staff, with kitchen staff, with administrators, TAs. It was really cool, and parents. So the whole cross section of the Native communities were in my workshops, and did individual sessions with children. But I always worked with the parent first, and so they knew what I was doing, and then the parent was also present. So yeah, it was really, really phenomenal. Yeah, really phenomenal. Some of the outcomes for children, especially those that were on Ritalin and unmanageable. One session, at the max two, they were off Ritalin, and being present and able to show up and make choices and behave, in the way that was required to be in the classroom. So yeah, it's phenomenal what what this can help people with.
Mm. And just backtracking a little bit, you mentioned the science. It seems that scientific equipment is becoming more sensitive. Would you agree with that?
Yes, yes, I do. And also scientific equipment and technology is giving us the crossroads of an opportunity of choice right now, because we have everything within us. We have our inner technology, and yet at the same time, we're being tempted, with external technologies to bring enlightenment, to bring us into a peaceful state of mind. So it's just like the technological version of Tylenol, or psychiatric, or recreational drugs, to bring enlightenment. And what I find is that even taking Tylenol, and I don't, suggest people stop or do, I'm not recommending anything. All I'm saying is that when we're in a situation where we need to take some medication, it tends to shut down our body's own internal capacity, because then now it has an external support. And so that part of us that knows how to create our own painkillers, the endorphin response, all of that, kind of goes to sleep, right? And at the same time, if we're not thinking, if we're not learning, our brain connections kind of atrophy, or they just kind of fall down. And so the phrase that a lot of people use these days is waking up. We need to wake up, right? We need to become aware. We need to take our abilities to respond. We need to make different choices. And most people don't know they have a choice.
Mm.
So, I love this work because it wakes that up.
Yes. Well, I would say you've been an explorer of some kind. I mean, exploration and It seems from what you've said, the words attachment, detachment come into it. Would you say that you've been able to benefit from experiences and then be free to move on and not hold on to that too tight, so that let you expand? Does it feel like that sometimes?
Absolutely, yeah, all the time. And that's why I feel so blessed, to be in the zone with people when I'm facilitating their ability to, to shift and clear and realign, with the truth of who they are, because I get to hang out in that space as well. So, being a facilitator of this allows me to do my own work simultaneously, work, if you want to call it, alignment. At the same time without even realizing I'm doing it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a bit about how you've facilitated other facilitators. So I understand you've actually brought people into your understanding and shared your tools and skills or perhaps insights. Or how would you describe that?
Yes, it's I.R.T, the acronym for Inner Resonance Technologies, is a protocol of questions that are all designed for yes, so that the part of you wakes up its ability to shift and clear and neutralize any old content, in your past that, has a tendency to come up and bite you in the butt, at the least likely moment, and and interrupt your life in a big reaction. so so training people in this protocol of questions where we learn what the bare bones, what the concepts and the principles are, so that then they can be flexible with who shows up that wants to be supported in their life. And so they can facilitate them in a way that's flexible, that can use the other person's words, the other person's beliefs, because it comes without dogma, and the basics are there, and there is a part of us, each of us, that knows really who we are. So it's just about clearing all that stuff, of who we're not. And that is in patterns of information and energetic patterns in our field. And so that occupies, this space around us. Like, we connected through Bruce Lipton. And, Bruce says we're all out of our minds because our mind is in a field all around our body. And those signals are what's poking at us and creating the reactions and giving us an experience of life. And we don't like the reactions, we don't like the experience. Well, they say change your thoughts, change your life. And so from a conscious level, we're very limited in how we can access that, because it's subconscious programming that automatically expresses and reacts. So what I love about I.R.T is that it gives us an ability to, bump it up into the super conscious higher self, if you want to call it that, to allow the part of you that knows the opportunity, with the direction and the command, go and defrag and, do a defrag antiviral program for all of the patterns and information and charged up material that is really not aligned with the truth of who I am, and that's ready at this time.
Mm. It's pretty powerful, isn't it?
It's
So
very powerful.
I think people that are listening right now are probably quite open people in exploring such things. Perhaps they haven't evolved the tools or any tool. There's a lot of tools out there. Perhaps they're, would you describe it as kind of a tool of empowerment?
Absolutely, it is. And, and it goes beyond your beliefs, it goes beyond the mind. At the mind level, we're processing 40 bits per second at the conscious level. At the subconscious, it's 40 million bits per second. And at the superconscious, higher self level, it's non-local, it's instant. So that's where the most efficient level is of change. And so that's where this works, in the superconscious level. And at the same time, too, what we're consciously aware of is maybe 5%. That's what we hear, 5% conscious, 95% unconscious or subconscious. And so of the 5% that we're consciously aware of, 99.9% of our awareness is looping up, and our thoughts are looping up from the old program. So yeah, change your thoughts and try to catch them, before or after they've just happened, is a lot of work, and it takes a lot of focus, and it's a path, of awareness. And so what if, you could have more than 0.1% access to something new, and open up a greater a bandwidth, if you will, to change. That is more automatic and effortless. And then your thoughts automatically are changed. You don't have to think about changing them, because where that thought was coming from, and from where that perception arose, was an old program, perhaps. And so with that neutralized, then you're free just to think a thought that's life-giving, that is supporting, that is loving.
Do you think when people hear something that could be potentially very easy for them to just feel a bit better or feel more flow or just feel like they can be themselves quite comfortably, do you think when they're presented with something like that, they might also hear the voice of, well, I'm comfortable with how it is and I'm addicted to struggle, or, well, there's nothing really wrong. I'm sort of going okay. Do you
Yeah.
notice that?
Absolutely, it happens all the time, and a lot of times people say, "Oh, well, I really would like, to try out your system, but I'll do it when I'm feeling better," right? And so, forgive them; they don't know really, the option that they've got. So I'll just say to people, "Hey, let's just play." Just see, because there's nothing I do for you, and what I.R.T is only an opportunity, from for other parts of yourself to, shift whatever is not relevant or unnecessary. And there may be nothing. Maybe this is all good, the way you're going, and continue to go the same old, it's working for you, and you're comfortable there. That's cool. But hey, if you want to play, let's just go there, see what might want to happen. So it's more hypothetical is my invitation. It's more, hey, you never know. Let's just see. And nothing I'm going to do to you or for you, nothing's going to happen that is not at your choice at some level. And so, yeah, let's just play.
It reminded me of the proverbial client canceling from a healer because they're not feeling well. Although, although in this current time, sometimes there's valid reasons to be a bit more careful. But have you found that this year has affected things for your work, or has your work evolved during this time?
Yeah, it's always evolving. What's happening this year is that I guess I am busy helping support people in finding their own way for their life, as different things shut down in certain directions. So economically, people haven't had as much available, and so I have a free session. I've always done. It says what, half an hour complimentary session. I really need to change that, because, well, it's kind of fun. Then when people show up and say, "Hey, I'm going to give you a full free session. Is that good?" Yeah. And so then we'll do that. So for anyone I meet, no matter where I meet them, I always offer them that if they're open. And that's my service in the world, and there's no strings attached to that. And then people open up. They find their economic path. They find, good ways of being in the world with whatever their challenges are, and find a whole new sense of empowerment and sense of being. So, I'm really grateful that this work is so easy to help people in such effortless ways that are so non-invasive, and they don't have to buy in, they don't have to believe anything. And so it's just kind of fun for me then. And I'll say sometimes, well, if you don't mind, there's no strings attached, but hey, let's talk in a week and see what's going on for you. And because that's my reward, to see all the interesting things that unfold for people. And most people say yes. And so it's always fun to see the outcomes
Yes.
people, and help them, in the awareness of that, because it's so effortless. They haven't had to work hard at it. They haven't had to think about it. So they can have huge changes and not even be aware that anything different happened.
Yeah. It seems one thing that's coming up a lot in different circles is the word natural, or be natural, and our natural essence, our natural selves, and also aligning our life with our natural essence. so that we feel that we're living our days from that point. It seems that as you do your work, you feel that you are being very natural. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Well, that's kind of happy in itself, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if we start talking a little bit about direct experience, we'll start moving towards taking a little time here and providing our viewers with a direct experience, a chance to just explore that. So, what would you like to say to people in building up for that?
Because there's nothing to say.
Yeah. Now, what about sitting or comfort, or is there
Yeah,
anything they could do to soothe their mind, or?
I don't mean to be so facetious here. There is really nothing to think about or do. The protocol is very simple. We start with a breath and we end with a breath. And the breath is life. And we are, we just are present with the breath and remember who we are by breathing in. The universe and all of everything is within because we breathe it in. And then at the end, when people are in that state that I call the chemistry of wholeness, the frequency of greater freedom to be more of who they are than ever before, then that is, it's a chemistry, it's a frequency, and it has a feeling, in your body. And for most people, it's more of a deep, relaxed state. Sometimes people feel light or expanded. Everybody's a little bit different. And so I will support you in being aware of how you're feeling, and then choose a place somewhere on your body that you can anchor it in, anchor that chemistry in, because chemical memory in the brain works through associative conditions. The neurons that fire together wire together. So we choose a spot somewhere. It doesn't matter where. Tongue on the roof of your mouth. It doesn't matter. Something you can do anywhere, no matter where you are, subtly, and bring yourself back into presence, back into the moment, free and clear of whatever triggered you or whatever was wanting to shift.
So you mentioned touching a point. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah,
What should people do?
yeah. So what that is a chemical memory in the brain works through conditions that happen simultaneously. So, for example, you hear a piece of music and you associate that with a very either a good event, or it might be a beautiful piece of music, but it's paired with an experience of something terrible happening. And so you're not going to feel comfortable with that beautiful piece of music in the future. And so that's an association. So we're going to create a positive association with how you're feeling, and that chemistry of how that feels, with thoughts of appreciation and gratitude, which are always wonderful to add into any quotient, any chemical mix. And then breathe with that to a repetition of 5 times, which helps to anchor in that switch. We're creating a switch in the brain through activating it through a touch or and a breath. And so anytime, no matter what's happening within you or around you, you get to activate this full-on super duper defrag antiviral program for your whole matrix, so to speak, beyond time, and bring you back into a good feeling place in a good way. And so on a daily basis.
Are you going to guide people to create some sort of movement or some sort of touch?
Yeah. And everybody will get to choose what that is for themselves at the end. And then I take through 5. And 5, because the first time subconscious gets something a little different or new, it can be resistant. Say, yeah, I got my ways, I'm good. And then the second and third time, the experience is received and acknowledged on the logical and emotional sides of their brain. 4th is greater integration, and that's a nice little platform. And then 5 takes it to the next level, next paradigm. 5th element is consciousness ether. It's sacred geometry, pyramid power kind of thing. 5 in numerology is a symbol for positive change. And 5 is the number of grace. And I think that's phenomenal. Really, this work's all about effortless grace. And doing it for so many years, I only found out, within the last, 4 or 5 years. And it's just beautiful. So 5 anchors in a whole new pattern, a whole new level of being, a whole new level of alignment. 5 dimensions, um, 5th dimensions often equated to love.
Mm.
So it just allows us to be more loving, more present, and freer of the old programs.
So I just invite viewers now to be comfortable, and I'm going to also join with you, and I just invite Maureen to take it from here. We'll perhaps take about 15 minutes of this experience. Thanks, Maureen. Go for it.
Welcome, thank you. And so as we're just sitting in our place of hopefully comfort somewhere, doesn't matter where you are, breathing in that universal life force energy of source, whatever name we want to put on that, and saying yes and thank you to that energy of the all of everything that is, that enlivens us, that regenerates us. And breathing into our bodies, which are amazing miracle machines. Body knows what's going on, what it's resonating with in your field that's not optimal. And most importantly, your body knows how to work instantly with infinite consciousness to shift that as you choose again. In every moment, we choose again. So we're going to wake up all the programs that got shut down through trauma, through pain, through beliefs, through conditioning. And it's a voice activated system, so we're just going to say the word switch on body, and I'll count to 3 so we can all say that together. 1, 2, 3. Switch on body. And so now we're at choice. So we can simply say today, for the simplicity of the group and our time, that all unresolved issues, known and unknown, that interfere with our greatest expression of the greater love and compassion and truth of who we really are as spiritual beings having a physical experience, to allow all unresolved issues, known and unknown, permission for neutralizing, for clearing, for letting go, down all levels of memory, your whole life, all the ancestral memory of your DNA, all your soul memory, past, present, which is concurrent and parallel realities, future, all brought into this current moment of 0 point of fresh choice, fresh level of freedom. And allowing all the memory of the planet, because we're breathing recycled atmosphere that has the molecules of memory of the whole history of the planet. And then beyond time and space, whatever that extended field is, to open the door really wide. And allowing any ways that any unresolved issues may be interfering with us physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, relationships of every kind. Everything's connected in our quantum realm, beyond time, beyond space. It's all entangled. And some things are more tangled than others, so we just want to allow everything to be entangled and connected in the most beautiful ways for greater good. And especially that connection with us and our higher self and the all of everything that is that we are breathing in. And so allowing all of our multidimensional selves to be coherently realigned around that greatest expression of our greatest, grandest selves. Abundant, healthy, passionately in service, being ourselves, being happy for no reason, which is enough. And so now a series of questions for you to put yourself in charge and create the agreements. that create easy ways for all of this to unfold. So are you allowing all of this unfolding in the safest and most appropriate ways for you and all concerned at all times? The answer is yes. Are you allowing greater ease and gentleness beyond what you've ever experienced? That would be interesting. Yes. Let's go see. And are you allowing effortless grace for instant and permanent shift of what's ready? And that's shifting out the old, it's creating the new, whatever it is, shift happens. So allowing that to happen instantaneously and permanently for what is ready at this time. And what may not be ready, to trust there is a bigger picture and that all is well, and to embrace every moment as each moment reveals what's next. We don't have that bigger picture. So allowing us to be at peace in the meantime and curious. And now allowing the part of you that is open to something different being possible than you've ever experienced before in a different way to be in charge. And allowing that part of you that knows how, beyond your conscious mind's ability to know or ability to track or need to think or do or make anything happen in this moment. The freedom to play in that field, that great mystery where everything already exists. And beyond the body's need to act anything out. Been there, done that. No need to re-experience, relive anything. So allowing the body just to relax as the whole field is addressed through our quantum selves at that spiritual level. And as this is happening, there's nothing else to do and everything to allow. And so as this is all happening in the background, beyond your awareness, you can take your awareness, if you like, to just bliss out somewhere lovely, peaceful or happy, or you can have a little nap. It doesn't happen at the conscious mind. This becomes the distraction for the conscious mind to allow the superconscious and spirit, the greater good, the greater God. And just allowing yourself to feel how deeply you go so quickly into that deeper sense of relaxed state. The door has been opened into the infinite, where there is no time. Notice how you're feeling. How your body's feeling, how your mind's relaxed, how your emotions are peaceful, feeling connected. And noticing where your hands are, where your tongue is inside your mouth. This is the chemistry of wholeness and the frequency of greater freedom to be more of yourself than ever before. Every time you touch that spot and every time you're aware of your breath. And so to anchor this in, this new level of freedom and beingness, being the peace in the world, just take a moment to find a spot. If where you're touching already is something you want to change, have it intentional. And as you have your touch, just notice the touch at the same time you're noticing how you're feeling. And breathing with awareness of your heart, full of gratitude, of appreciation. That alone brings coherence. So this time it's bringing coherence into a field that's clear of what's no longer relevant or needful to drag forward. You're in a new state of freedom and wholeness. Breathing in and out of your heart center with gratitude, even for the smallest thing. Awareness of your touch. And now I invite you into 5 deeper breaths to really anchor in this new program. And taking your first deep breath in as you're touching your spot. And breathing out, just letting go of your touch. And breathing in and touching. Breathing out, letting go. Breathing in and touching a third time. Breathing out, letting go. Two more times. Breathing in and touching. And breathing out, letting go. Fifth time. Breathing in and touching. And breathing out, letting go. And this is your switch of wholeness, your switch of your essential self, basically, on a whole new level of freedom and expression automatically. And so what I recommend, how you use this tool, primarily is before you sleep, when you wake up, and then anytime you get triggered during the day, because it brings you back not just as a temporary thing like meditation might be, to put you into that place of peace and stillness once again. It actually does that and clears anything underneath whatever caused the trigger in the first place. So you're bringing yourself into new levels of freedom all the time with every time you do that. And once you have 5, which is a program, you only need 1. However, all that being said, I tell people as you practice this on a daily basis, do 5, do 1, do 3, bippity boppity boo, or do 500, play with it, see how it feels to you. And it may be in different situations that you need more or less. And allow yourself that it becomes a way of life and a way of empowering yourself, and it's so profound. And it's even allowed people to heal broken bones in 5 to 15 minutes. It's tremendous, the potential that we all carry. And so you just go from strength to strength in newer ways that become more graceful and more effortless in your life. And it connects you, as we said, in with your heart, with your essential self, and inspiration comes, creativity, new opportunities drop in, new ideas, or at the very least you're just peaceful in your life, like, oh my goodness, yeah, at the very least we're peaceful. That could be a nice bonus for the world. Yes.
Well, that was marvelous, and I think we're most fortunate now that actually people have this resource that they can use, even on this YouTube segment. That and you mentioned the word practice, so I think encouraging people to practice something rather than dabble, and give it the chance to train yourself and for your experience and for your adventure to evolve. I think it's a really good point you mentioned there, and thank you so much for providing that so beautifully, and hope our viewers really enjoyed that.
Me too. And it's just really lovely to know, without knowing, that this is making a huge, profound difference in people's lives right now, that are on the call. And also, of course, the people that watch it in the future. And knowing that this work is designed Excuse me, who's talking too much here? Never me. And so it's actually designed to make a difference, to give opportunity spontaneously and instantly to everyone that's heart and DNA connected with you. Those are the people that we have the greatest ripple effect upon. And because we're all part of each other, there is no separation. Instantly and spontaneously, people in your lives or that are heart connected that maybe not in your lives get opportunity to shift whatever's not useful for them anymore. And so it's surprising because we know when we change, everybody needs to change in response to us. But this is a step beyond that, where it's the next level, where people are actually intrinsically changing themselves. You know, and as Wayne Dyer would say, when also when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so, you know, it's reverse from how we might automatically be trained to think.
Yeah. Yes, I understand your point. Even as I joined in there, I got this immense satisfaction of that feeling of knowing that with the interconnectivity of the oneness of everything, how much you're actually contributing when you just align with so much power or energy or a life, and it's just such a fulfilling feeling of itself, isn't it?
It sure is. One word to the wise. In physics, the scientific principle is that nothing brings us down, by the way. You know, the old saying, if you want to fly with eagles, don't hang out with turkeys, sort of thing. But truth is that the principle of resonance, there's a range of harmonic frequencies that actually entrain up. So the more coherent, more aligned your energies are, the environment will entrain up around you. And so if there's anything dissonant or there's too much of a range between, and what's around you or what's within you that's acting out, it'll be more like oil and water. That's where we react. And when we react, it's our stuff. We know that for sure. So a touch and a breath can clear whatever caused the reaction without having to figure it out and having to go investigate it and go down any rabbit holes. And also then you can entrain, your whole environment up into that higher level of coherency. And that is a scientific law. And anytime you're feeling, jagged or rough, it's something within you that wants to be smoothed out. And it could be just that you need to leave and go somewhere else, right?
Yes.
It's not about, needing other people and situations to change. Either they'll leave or you'll leave.
Yes, it can be quite challenging, but here I think we've we've seen that there are tools, and I'm really happy that we've put this here, and we've got something. I really invite people to make use of this, and you don't have to listen to the whole thing every time. If you want to cut to the that experience, we won't be offended. I don't think, Maureen, will we?
That would be lovely. Skip the blah blah.
No, actually,
No.
it's been such a wonderful interview, and I will say, if you didn't talk in this interview, I don't think people are going to stand there because I didn't write down so many questions, and I might run out of things to say. so, so I appreciate, we probably look to wrap it up actually, and I just want to say a warm. We'll let people enjoy their peace for a while. I want to
Yeah.
say a really warm thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm just so glad that you've been able to share these wonderful insights and tools and wisdoms with people, and I'm quite certain that it's going to be thoroughly enjoyed. So thank you very much, Maureen, and
Such a blessing to be able to share this gift with the world. That's my great honor and pleasure. Thank you so much.
all right. Thanks a lot.